Book of Revelations, chapter 20, verse 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. This angel was a representation of Christ. That's what it was a representation of. And he laid hold of the dragon. The dragon here represented the so-called white race. This is when we begin to rule Europe in 193 AD, beginning with Septimius Severus. This is, what are we reading? Bible prophecy. And he laid hold of the dragon, that old serpent, which is called the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Now, I know many of you, you're looking for some being, some mystery being. But in Genesis 3 and 15, it tells you that Satan has a seed. And he laid hold of the dragon. He laid hold of the children of perdition. And they're right here on earth today. And cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up. And set a seal upon him, that he should not deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that, he must be loosed for a season. Now, what does that mean? That means in 1453, we finally fell again. But although a small remnant of us was still ruling in places like Russia until around the 1700s. But in 1453 is when they took Constantinople, and after they overthrew Constantine, who was a so-called black man, by the way, and I'm going to bring that out as well. So in 1453, we finally fell under this Sultan Muhammad and the Ottoman Turks. And they also took back places like Spain. But we ruled starting in 193 AD with Septimius Severus. So, brothers and sisters, henceforth, when you hear the word Byzantine, remember, think so-called Jews who was actually black. When you hear Christian, think so-called Jews who was actually black, because the real Jews are black. Remember that, remember that, remember that. Whenever you hear Byzantine, the Byzantine Empire, we was ruling.
The Byzantium Empire was white, as has clearly been proven in prior videos. But Afrocentrics and black Hebrews persist in believing otherwise, that Byzantium was black. Black Byzantium is a fundamental part of their belief system. They believe that Black Byzantium fulfills a major prophecy in Revelation, namely Revelation 20. They say that blacks ruled in the Middle Ages, the white men lived in caves and was in serfdom under them. Then in the Renaissance, or rebirth, of Europe, which they believe is when the white men, who they like to call Satan, usurped the throne, iconoclast every black image seen by the naked eye, and doctored every text written by man. But for this interpretation to be false, and indeed it must be, shatters their entire belief system. Al-Tabari recorded a dialogue where Arabs call the Byzantines Banu Asfar. And I quote, "Would you like, O Jad, to fight the Banu Asfar, sons of the yellow, red one, this year?" He said, "Oh, messenger of God, please excuse me from this and do not tempt me. By God, my folk know no better admirer of women than I. I fear that if I see the women of the Banu Asfar I shall not be able to control myself." Page 48, The History of Al-Tabari Volume 9, The Last Years of the Prophet. Now the translator's note for this excerpt. The Byzantines were called Banu Asfar by the Arabs in contrast to Aswad, black, a description of non-Arabs as light-skinned. The genealogists were not satisfied with the color explanation and considered Asfar, Sifo of Genesis 36 and 2, the grandson of Esau, in the Septuagint, Genesis 36 and 10. It has been mentioned that Esau attached himself to his paternal uncle Ishmael and married Ishmael's daughter Basma, whom he took to Syria and who bore him a number of children. They multiplied until they overcame the Canaanites in Syria. Then they journeyed to the sea and the area of Alexandria, and from there to Byzantium. It is said that Esau was called Edom because of his ruddiness, and that his descendants were thus called the children of the Yellow One. Page 136, The History of Al-Tabari Volume 2, Prophets and Patriarchs. His descendants were thus called the children of the Yellow One. Now the prior quote. Would you like, O Jad, to fight the Banu Asfar, sons of the Yellow, Red One, this year? I will now read from an online source, which concurs with the topic at hand. Al-Rum. The Byzantines are still referred to in our texts as Al-Rum. Sometimes, especially during the early period of the Crusades, the term Al-Rum was also used to refer to the Franks. Upon the arrival of the Crusaders, the Arabs tended to confuse them with the Byzantines. Mostly, however, and especially with time, the new term Al-Ifranjay was coined for the Franks, reacting an emerging distinction between Byzantines and Crusaders. It did not take long for a new image of the Ifranjay, dissociated from that of the Byzantines, to emerge. However, both the terms Ifranjay and Rum were at times used to mean Christian, in general. Banu al-Asfar is another name that continues to be used by Arab authors in the 12th and 13th centuries to refer to the Byzantines. Arab Muslim authors continue to trace the origins of the Rum back to Abraham and attempt to explain the reference Banu al-Asfar. Ibn Manzur, d. 711/1311, in his famous dictionary Lisan al-Arab, deems the Rum as a known people who are traced back to Esau, son of Isaac. Yaqut, d. 626/1229, repeats information found in earlier sources which trace the Rum mainly through Esau, son of Isaac, son of Abraham. This same Esau, in one story, married Basma, daughter of Ishmael, and since Esau was blonde, his wife brought into the world Al-Rum. Hence the Rum were called Banu al-Asfar because they were blonde. Similarly, the 12th century geographer Muhammad al-Zuhri traces the origin of the Rum back to Abraham and his son Isaac, making a clear distinction between the Rum and the Yunanian, ancient Greeks. Another continuity with the earlier image of the Byzantines is connected with their physical beauty. The cosmographer al-Qazwini, d. 682/1285, states that the Byzantines are mostly white, with blonde hair and sturdy bodies. Similarly, the geographer Ibn Said, d. 678 or 685/1274 or 1286, stresses the whiteness and blondness of the Byzantines, stating that the inhabitants of the sixth climate are characterized by extreme whiteness, blue eyes, and blonde hair, and they often have freckles on their faces. These physical attributes were highly valued, as can be deduced from various adab works and special manuals, which delineate the prevalent Arab typology of beauty. From this information, it's evident the Arabs and Persians believed Edom's progeny survived the Roman-Jewish wars, and ruled a kingdom known in their time as Byzantium. The Black Hebrews claim that Edom is the white man. If Edom is the white man, then the Byzantines were white, because they were called Edom by their neighbors, thus flawing their Revelation 20 doctrine. But if Byzantium was black, then the Edomites must be black, and Esau is not the progenitor of the white race. Either way, their doctrine is flawed.